Imagine being forced to leave the country you've always called home for years, put in chains and sent back on a long flight with very little explanation, or even no explanation. Well, this is exactly what hundreds of Indian migrants in the US have experienced in recent months as the American government ramped up deportations. Though we are not saying that the American is at the fault because these people entered the US illegally. But a major controversy erupted when reports suggested that Sikh deportees were forced to remove their turbans during these deportation flights. For Sikhs, the turban, or also they call it dastar, is not just a piece of cloth. It is a sacred symbol of faith and identity. So when images surfaced showing Sikh deportees at Amritsar airport without their turbans, outrage just sparked very quickly across India. Social media was flooded with questions and anger. Why were they treated this way? Was this a deliberate attempt to humiliate them? Well, the Indian government stepped in immediately to seek answers from the US authorities. The Indian government officially raised concern with the US about the treatment of its deported citizens. The Ministry of External Affairs demanded an explanation regarding both religious sensitivities and the treatment of deportees during the flight. Then, in response, the US officials claimed that no Sikh deportee was forced to remove their turban. According to Minister of State for External Affairs, Kirti Vardhan Singh, the US clarified that all deportees on the 3 recent flights, that was on February 5th, 15th and 16th, were allowed to wear religious head coverings and that nobody requested any special religious accommodation during the flight except for vegetarian meals. But here's a problem. Photos and reports from the ground tell a different story. People who saw deportees arriving in Amritsar claim that many were without turbans and some were shackled during the entire journey. Another shocking revelation was that these deportees were being carried out using US military aircraft, a practice not seen since 2009. Usually, deportation happened on commercial flights or any chartered plane, but this time, the US sent a military aircraft for 104 Indian nationals on board. But now Trump has halted that too. Let's talk about numbers now. A total of 388 Indians were deported via 3 special flights on February 2025, landing in Amritsar. Another 55 deportees were sent back on commercial flights via Panama, landing in New Delhi. Some deportees were shackled for almost 40 hours during the journey, with restraints removed only after landing. Deportees included asylum seekers, people who overstayed their visas, and those caught illegally crossing into the US via Mexico. The Biden administration has been under a lot of pressure to tighten immigration law, specifically after the surge of illegal border crossing. In 2024 alone, over 96,000 Indians tried to cross the US illegally, many through Mexico. And this was the highest number ever recorded for Indian migrants, making them one of the fastest growing group of border crossers. Now that Trump has returned to the office, US are taking a tough stance on immigration and India is again feeling the heat. Many more Indians who are there illegally are expected to return very soon. Many deported Indians sold everything that they ever had in the US only to be sent empty-handed. Some have pending asylum cases, while others are now in legal limbo with no clear future. The Indian government says that it will continue to push for humane treatment of deportees, but so far there is very little clarity on what can actually be done. As tension grows, one thing is certain. This is not the last that we'll hear about Indian deportation from the US. The question is, will India stand up for its own citizens? Or will the US continue to dictate the terms? You tell me.